Join lifelong Star Wars fans Lauren and Steph as they dive into the world of Star Wars fan fiction, discussing a new fic each month, breaking down the writing style, characters, canon relationship, and more. This is your source for Star Wars fan fiction recommendations. So come on and find out why it's one hell of a fanfic.
Hey y'all, I'm Lauren and welcome to One Hell of a Fanfic, where we talk about a new Star Wars fanfic every month. And tonight I am here with Steph as usual. How's it going, Steph?
It's going fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I do have to say, we were just talking about this before we hit record, but I am just over here laughing about how every time we switch off on who picks the fanfic, the choice is always like wildly different from the month before it, and I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. Last month, spicy. This one, no.
This month, dark and stressful.
A little bit, yes.
Our poor listeners are probably like, I don't know where we're going with this, but
We're
going somewhere. Though. Yeah, but I think it's a good thing because I know we've talked about this before. Like, I feel like we're encouraging each other to read different types of fanfic that, like, I know, like, the ones you pick are normally not ones that I would just pick up on my own. And I think you've told me the same about mine.
Yes.
So it's fun how it's like, we're expanding our horizons. I love that.
This month, we read The More You Tighten Your Grip by HiNerdsItsCat. And this was written back in 2018 and was really short, like 20 minutes short. It was only like 2,344 words. I said it was going to be an estimate. No, that's the exact amount of words.
That's the exact number.
So what was different about this, outside of it being more serious, was that it was written in second person, which I don't read anything like that, and I really didn't know how to even accomplish that. But it's, if anyone would imagine the point of, they call it point of view. So reading it, it's like, you are this person, you are feeling this happens to you, and it was different to read.
Yeah, it was really different, but weirdly enough, like, I feel like after the first couple pages, I was already used to it, which is nice.
Yep. So this one had no spice level whatsoever. This was not a romance. And it was alternate universe, which the author actually very specifically put, which sometimes just does not happen. And we'll get to like the warnings and the everything about it. No one says what it is, and I'm like, I never know what to expect. This one actually put it, and I was happy.
Yeah, it's nice when you can nail down exactly what category it falls under.
Yes. All right. Tropes. Tell me about them.
Okay, tropes. We have found family, which I feel like found family is in like every fanfic we read. Basically, found family is when somebody develops a relationship with somebody that wasn't their birth family. So, like how Leia and Vader are trying to navigate their relationship in this one is an example of found family. Or Leia and Luke, even though they're blood family, they weren't birth family. So there's trope number one. Trope number two, we also have unreliable narrator. And what an unreliable narrator is pretty much when the person whose eyes you're witnessing the story through, you can tell that there's pieces that are kind of getting left out. There's parts where their memories might be kind of hazy, whether it's on purpose by the narrator or not. It's just kind of like you get the sense that you don't really know the full story coming from them. Yeah.
I've never heard of that one before, but yes, that fits.
We'll explain that more later.
Yes. So other cool things about this fanfic is that it's another one that has a podfic. So I will put that link into the description of the actual when it all airs. And then also, this was the part one of a 22-part series called Uncertain Point of View, which was the author came up with a bunch of short stories that were all in second person, and they're all different people, and they kind of all twist off of what happened in canon.
That's awesome that it's like such a long series of all these. That's really cool. Okay, should we get into the author summary now?
Yes.
Okay, so first I'm going to read the summary that the author gave us in the notes of the story, so there's no spoilers in this. So the author summary goes, Your name is Leia Organa, and you just watched your homeworld die. Your name is Leia Organa, and your fist is clenched so tightly that your nails are digging into your palm. Your name is Leia Organa, and you are watching Grand Moff Tarkin fall to his knees, clutching at his throat as he struggles to breathe. So that's pretty much that's the foot that we're starting on, and then this story kind of takes it from there. So, why do you think people should read this?
I think you should read it simply to just get a taste of what second person actually looks like. It was an easy to read story, quite digestible. Like you said, it was after you started reading it, you kind of just got into the groove of it. And plus, there's the fun plot twist or change, the thing that diverts from canon itself. I hadn't actually read the summary. I know we talked about what it was about, but I didn't actually see where this was going. I thought it was just a story about, how Leia handles after her homeworld dies. I didn't get past the first line of the description apparently, so it was a plot twist to me. I was like, what?
I mean, it is a plot twist. It definitely is different from what we were expecting to happen.
Yes. How about you? Why would you recommend it?
For me, I really love digging deeper into the Leia Vader dynamics or Leia and Anakin dynamics, I guess, depending on the fic. Like, just kind of looking at their relationship and how the two of them deal with each other, with like in terms of their differences and also with the things that they have in common, and just kind of like how they navigate that relationship. I love any fic that looks into that a little bit deeper than we get a chance to in canon. So for
Mhm.
me, that was like a main selling point of this one was I saw it was Leia and Vader and I was like, okay, bingo. And in addition to that, you really get in Leia's head in this one quite a lot. That second person style, it does lend itself to just kind of getting into her thoughts in a way that it almost feels like a more raw version. Like it's not quite so storytelling polished. Like it feels like you're going through this with her as she is in her own head, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so kind of getting that perspective and also getting to think about what would have happened if she had the power to do something. That was pretty much all of that together is what made this a good read for me.
I love that the way you describe things, and I think it lends to the podcast as a whole here that whenever I come in with things like, why should you read this? I'm like, because it's fun. And you're like, I have serious things to say about the character development. And we have a good balance.
Yeah, we got to get both sides. Like, you keep it real. I get lost in a cloud sometimes. Like,
I thought it was the other way around.
I guess it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. Like, whether you're just like, look, this is why this is a good read, period. Or if you decide to give a big long speech. That's those are your two options. Decide which one speaks to you more. Okay, well, speaking of a big long speech, I will now give my summary of this story, which includes spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, turn back now. I'm about to say everything. So here it goes. So this fic, it opens with a familiar scene from A New Hope. We have Leia being interrogated by Tarkin as she watches Alderaan get destroyed by the Death Star, and she realizes that nothing she could have said would have prevented the destruction of Alderaan. He was just messing with her. And this makes her so angry and so filled with rage, dark side rage, that she actually force chokes him to death. And this is, of course, very satisfying because that's exactly what Tarkin deserved. And Vader witnesses this because he's standing right there and he's like, oh, that's familiar. So he takes Leia aside. He asks her questions about her childhood, gets to the bottom of the fact that she is his daughter. And he tells her this. And he wants to take her under his wing and get her to join him. And she's pretty resistant to this at first. She doesn't accept him as her family. She still views her birth family as her main family. And she also still hates the Empire as well. And Vader seems to be aware of this, but it's not really an issue for him. He still wants her to join him because he hates the Empire too, deep down. So, despite all that, though, eventually she does escape Mustafar, but at this point, you kind of can't tell if he let her escape or if she actually escaped on her own. She goes back to the Rebel base. She meets Obi-Wan and she meets Luke. She finds out Luke is her brother. She also finds out that Obi-Wan didn't tell Luke anything about the truth like Vader told her. That makes her angry because she feels like Obi-Wan really did Luke a disservice by withholding this from him. So now she hates Obi-Wan as well. And she tells Luke the truth of everything. And once she tells him, they decide that they're going to go to Mustafar and they are going to join Vader together. And Leia, during this time, she becomes very close to Luke very quickly. Even though with Vader, you kind of can't tell if she ever really fully trusts him. With Luke, that's not the case at all. She feels very loyal to Luke. They have a very strong connection, and that stays consistent throughout the rest of the story. But when they're all on Mustafar, there's a lot of anxiety about Kenobi is going to show up here. And the same thing, history is going to repeat itself. The same thing's going to happen. He's going to destroy all of it. He's going to ruin our plan of ruling the galaxy together. And so they convince Vader to leave by telling him that they should go confront Palpatine. Because, of course, Vader hates Palpatine more than he hates Kenobi. And although that probably could be debated, in this fic, that is the case. But anyway, don't get off track. So they go confront Palpatine. There is a scuffle, you could say. Somebody kills Palpatine. At this point, Leia kind of, you know how when you're so nervous you black out and you're like, I don't remember what happened. That's pretty much what happens. And Leia's like, somebody killed him. And somehow Vader gets wounded badly enough that he's dying. So at the end of this fight, Palpatine's dead, Vader's dead. It's Luke and Leia still standing. They both have now fully given themselves over to the dark side. And their goal now is that they are going to rule the galaxy together. They're going to kind of try to reform the Empire. And they still seem to believe that they can make the galaxy better, quote unquote, even though they're now the emperors. And at the end of the story, as kind of like fully accepting her heritage, she decides to start going by Empress Amidala, and she completely doesn't see herself as an Organa anymore at all. And yeah, that's the end of the story.
Wow.
Did I miss anything?
3 minutes.
You're watching the clock.
4 minutes. 4 minutes. Yeah, I was watching. I was timing it.
Did I leave anything out?
No, I think you got it all.
Awesome.
Actually, I think you added a lot to it, and that's one of the things that I had noticed throughout the story, is that the author gave a lot of detail in some ways, but also left so much up to interpretation. Mm-hmm. Like you said before, it's a snapshot of what Leia is directly experiencing. So you just kind of get the idea of what's kind of going on around us, because we're who is the story.
Yeah.
And I like all the little hints that are dropped by the author, which we can go into later, that help you understand what's going on in the story and kind of, because we have prior knowledge, understand it.
What else do you feel like this author did well in addition to that?
Just their direct ability to use imagery in all different ways to be able to create that effect. One of the lines that I actually have quoted is, "You hate, and your hatred is an inferno under your skin. Your hatred is the scream of everyone you've ever loved ringing in your ears. Your hatred is the bitten tongue, the red mist in your vision, the clenched fist." It's just so simple and straight to the point, and you get such a feel from it.
Yeah. It's very visceral. Well, and like adding on to that, like that imagery that the author uses, that also just kind of hits home the point that for me, like a big thing that I really noticed about this author is we have a lot of emphasis on emotion, which we've kind of touched on this already, but a lot of emphasis on emotion and what Leia is thinking and feeling. The actual how everything happens isn't as important. Like there's one part of the story where it's like, somehow she escapes. She doesn't tell the rebellion how she did it, and we don't find out either. And and the reason for that is because it's not important. Like the ins and outs of exactly how she managed to do that, that's not what's relevant to the story. What's relevant to the story is the emotional journey that she's going on. And so the fact that the author uses that imagery that you mentioned to like get those visceral emotional reactions, that just kind of hits that point home even more, which is like what we need to be paying attention to here is the emotional experience rather than like this is what happened first and then this and then this and then this.
I didn't know how to best explain that in words. You did well. I was trying to explain how, like, when I'm making my notes, I was like, how do I explain that? This is not so much a story, but it is a story, but it doesn't have all of those elements you'd expect to see. With like the pretty words and then this happened and it brought to this and then no, it's like if they had to tell you something happened, it was very straight to the point. It was Vader found out this, I said this, I did not say this, they felt this, and it's almost jarring, but it adds so well to all of the things that are happening.
Yeah, like it's a little bit different than what we're a lot of times used to, but I feel like it really works with drawing our attention to the things that we really need to be paying attention to the most in this story. So I thought that was really well handled. Okay, characters. What characters do we have?
All right, so we have Leia and Luke, Vader, Obi-Wan, Tarkin and Palpatine, and then there's a couple of others like mentioned, but they weren't in the story.
Yeah. Did you feel like these characters? Well, I mean, of course, this is alternate universe, so this question is kind of a loaded question. But do you feel like these characters, like, do you think they made sense with their canon counterparts? Do you think they were like a totally different interpretation? Could you see like any commonalities at all?
The way that Tarkin died, it doesn't really truly fit into his character. No, no. um, yeah, no, I, I don't know how to answer that question, honestly. I could be ridiculous, though.
Well, I mean, I love the ridiculousness. That's really what we're here for at the end of the day. We're not here to be boring. Yeah, I mean, like, of course, like, yeah, this is alternate universe, so it's a very different interpretation of the events. But there were some things that I could kind of see, oh, I kind of see where that could come from, like especially in terms of Leia's hatred toward Tarkin. Like, I could see her being filled with a level of hatred like that that in canon we don't really get let in on very much. Um, and also the fact that like Canon Leia, her biggest issue is she wants to save the world and she's trying too hard to do something that's just not possible. You can't save everybody and everything. And so I feel like that flaw that she has in canon, it also fit well with this fanfic because that's how this whole thing with Vader starts is he offers her power and she's tired of feeling helpless, so that's tempting to her. So I thought that was a cool connection.
This brings up a question in general for me, which I can just ask at the end, though, in question time.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm wondering what it is.
Let's just hope I remember what it is.
Oh no, maybe you should just ask it now.
Oh, God. Okay, so in canon, how come? Because we know that the Force tends to come out in more high stress in times. How
Yeah.
come in canon we don't ever see or hear about Leia using the Force? Like we do towards the end when she's at the very end. They're like gave us that whole like pulling herself towards the ship thing.
Yeah, in the sequel
But
trilogy, yeah.
we know she ended up going through training, and we know she's Force not just sensitive. She has abilities. How come there wasn't all of that what you'd expect to see? Where is she just so controlled with her emotions and her feelings and and I don't know, her actions that she just didn't have accidental magic basically.
I could see it being like kind of what you said with like being in control of her emotions cuz I almost wonder if like so being princess, she probably had to go through a lot of training in terms of like people are going to say things that's going to rile you up and you need to stay calm, you know, like in political situations and like,
Yeah.
you know, having to deal with the Senate and things like that, you know. So I could see her being like trained to kind of like keep her cool, but I
Mm.
don't know. Do you have any theories?
No, that makes complete sense. But maybe it would come out in other ways too, because we know you can help influence other people, right? So maybe in all of her training, her force abilities kind of came out more in the Senate and in political situations where she could help influence the happenings of what was going on, and so she kind of went up the ranks.
Yeah,
Things to contemplate.
I could see that too. Or like kind of like, I mean, obviously not quite Jedi mind trick level because like, it seems like you have to have some training to be like that good at it, but like something maybe like that where she's kind of pushing on the emotions of people a little bit. Like I'm thinking about
Mm,
like I don't know if you've ever read the Mistborn series, but there's this power in that series where people can kind of like certain magic users can soothe the emotions of other people to like calm them down. Maybe she could do something like that. I don't
maybe. Oh,
know.
I'm gonna
Star
look at
Wars
canon so
Mistborn
different.
crossover.
Yes.
Anyway, okay. After that little tangent that we got off on, what other reactions did you have about this?
There was so much character growth. I don't know, is it growth to go to the dark side or change in general?
I think it still counts
Um,
as growth. Maybe not good growth, but
it's growth somewhere.
it's still
So
growth. Yeah.
you mentioned it earlier how in the beginning she started off with feeling one way and then by the end completely changed her identity and who she thought her parents were. So that you see that progression over time. And while it was such a short story, the author does spread it out very well. And it's just, she doesn't remember when she started to refer to him as Anakin. And she doesn't know, but you see, like, I don't know, earlier in the story where she's like, I can never understand how anyone could see this person as my mother other than my this I don't know, the way that they explained it was just like she would never feel that way, but then a little bit later it would be her that transition, and then suddenly it's changed, and suddenly there's another thing changed, and that it happens throughout the entire story. And I was surprised on how smooth of a transition it was, but it was very intentional.
I agree. It's really nice to see that smooth transition cuz I feel like that sells the reader on like us being able to be on board with it even if it feels kind of out there. Like if we're seeing every step of the way, then I mean, it kind of gets us on board whether we like it or not.
Yes, I thought the pacing of the story also really it was well done. So in the beginning it was slower and more feelings and thoughts, but as the dark side started to take over, passion started to happen, all of the things you'd expect from the dark side, things started to like tumble and quickly snowball into more and more, and suddenly we're not getting as much story, we're not getting as much feeling, and things are just kind of happening, and then bam, dark side.
It's almost like you feel like you're kind of going down the path with the way that it's written. It's just kind of like the way that it's formed. It's hard to put into words. Like I don't even know if there's a word for what I'm trying to describe, but it's like the way that the prose is, it just starts to kind of feel like you're becoming like as you're getting closer to the end, things are getting more and more disjointed and it's like a reflection of Leia also becoming more and more disjointed. Well, I guess to add on to what you said, my main thoughts were pretty much a lot of what you already touched on, which is that gradual transition. Um, Also the connection, which I already talked about too, of canon Leia and the Leia in this fic. Both of their biggest flaw is wanting to fix everything and going too far at times with trying to figure out how to do it. Canon Leia just wears herself out. This Leia goes down like a bad path to do it. And oh yeah, I also thought it was interesting that her goal pretty much stayed the same from the beginning to the end of the story. Even though there's a lot of character growth, her goal is still to make the galaxy better. But exactly how to do that and exactly what that looks like, that is what changes. But she still always wants to make the galaxy better. So I thought that was cool how like that one common thought stayed the same for her.
Kind of reminds me of Anakin and how, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
They got a
Hmm,
lot in common.
that they do.
Yeah, unfortunately.
What was your favorite scene?
Probably when she kills Tarkin. And also, though, I did also want to highlight that the last scene when somebody kills Palpatine, we don't know exactly who. I liked the way that that scene was written because kind of what we were just talking about with the whole disjointed feeling thing. That scene, when I was reading it, it reminded me so much of like when you're doing like something that makes you super nervous, like a job interview or something. And then afterwards you're like, I was so nervous. I don't remember what happened. I think I just blacked out and like said a bunch of stuff. Like that's pretty much what that scene
Yeah.
is that they confront Palpatine. It's like super nerve-wracking, crazy. Like everybody's all over the place all at once. And then it's over and then like somehow he's dead and they're like, we don't even know who did it. We were just kind of all kind of going wherever we needed to go. And I
Yeah.
feel like the way that the scene was written, like I felt that. So that really stood out to me too. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I've been there. Not with murdering people, but I've
Yeah,
been
like
there. I
a
was
job
nervous.
interview.
Right. Same difference.
Normal people version of of that.
My favorite scene was also the scene where she kills Tarkin. It was, well, mostly probably because I didn't read the description of the story. Um, but it was such a, like, oh, that's what's happening now. Okay. And you could feel it. And I think it soothed a bit of what all of us were feeling because, man, that guy's mean. Like, he deserved that. He
Yeah,
just
he's
did some bad
awful.
stuff.
I mean, there's some villains that like okay, like for like Vader for example, there's some villains that even though you know they're horrible, you still kind of root for them.
Yeah.
Tarkin is not that way. Like
No.
I don't root for Tarkin at all. Like
No.
so yeah, I also found that very satisfying when she
Yes.
did that.
The only time I've ever liked Tarkin was in the From a Certain Point of View book where he has a boyfriend.
Really? Oh my god, I haven't read that one. Does
That
he
was the
like
first
actually
one.
have a soul in that story?
Kinda, kinda. It kind of
Okay.
falls into a sort of relationship. It's worth the read. It's in between that and like the mouse droid stories, and they overlap. Mouse droid stories are a little bit hard
Does
to get
that
through.
relationship go bad and that's why he's so horrible? It's because he's
Actually, don't
heartbroken.
remember. But that was the only time I ever liked Tarkin. Like,
Okay.
oh,
Well,
look
it
at
must have
that.
been a compelling story for it to make you feel sympathetic toward Tarkin. So
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out.
In that story, like we're just talking about, where they're not remembering anything at the end. During that part, right before like the battle happens, Luke helps her with something, and she doesn't remember what he helped her with, but it was like he was I think he helped her overcome something, and it seemed to be whatever she needed to get the job done. And I want to know what you think that he helped her with.
I I don't honestly, I think when I was reading this, I don't even know if I noticed that part until you just said it.
Yeah.
But based on what you just said, did he like kill somebody for her or like assassinate somebody for her?
I'm kind of coming to that, like, because also they made a very strong point to say that she doesn't remember what he helped her with, and then later on, she doesn't remember who killed Palpatine. So I'm kind of wondering if those are linked.
If Luke killed Palpatine?
Mm-hmm.
Or if there was somebody else that he had to assassinate, like, on the road to Palpatine or something like that.
Maybe.
But
Maybe it was Obi-Wan.
who would she oh my god, I hope not. I mean, I get it that it's super annoying that Obi-Wan, like, kept all that info to himself, but come on, guys. Don't
That'd
kill
be a little
Obi-Wan.
drastic, but
I'm trying
I
to
mean,
think
they're
about
full Sith by the end, so
yeah, that's true. Who would she need him to kill? Other than Palpatine, of course. Because she killed Tarkin. Sounds like
right,
they just once Palpatine and Vader are dead, they both just clean house in terms of Imperial officers.
right.
So I don't know. I don't know. maybe it is referring to Palpatine, just because I can't think about anybody else that he would need to assassinate for her. So, do you think that Leia actually felt any emotional attachment to Vader in this story? Like, kind of like as her father, as maybe like a distant relative, or did she just see him as a means to an end?
I don't know, because it didn't really go into how she felt about him. It did say that she was viewing him as her father, but it didn't seem to be any kind of friendly kind of feelings.
Yeah. Like it almost feels like she kind of can't decide cuz for a lot of it she's like I hate him and I would kill him if I could.
Yeah.
And then another part it's like she's calling him father. And then there's the part at the end where he's dead and she doesn't even seem like she cares.
No. Yeah, did she? It was like as soon as like the dark side started to take over, she kind of started to accept facts, but didn't have feelings towards them. Like
Yeah.
these are her parents now. Okay, end
Yeah.
of story.
Like this is my heritage. This is where I come from, but that's all it is. Yeah, I kind of couldn't decide what I thought in terms of if she actually cared about Vader or not cuz she does seem very detached by the time we get to the end. Okay, next question. So, the goal of making the galaxy better, that stayed the same through this story. But of course, how exactly that goes down, that's what changes. So, do you think that Leia and Luke will actually make the galaxy better? Like after Vader and Palpatine are dead and they kill all those Imperial officers, do you think that they will actually succeed in their goal of it truly being better? Or do you think now that they're Sith, they're just gonna like make all the same mistakes and mess everything up like Palpatine did?
I want to believe it's going to be like the last two stories ago, where the Sith ended up being good guys.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that was fun.
yeah, I don't think so though, because and Luke coming into the dark side was he's had to have felt a bit betrayed because he had just gotten scooped up by Obi-Wan. It's like, you're a wizard, Harry, and then but also lied to him about everything else. And then here comes his sister, and then actually here's the truth. And like so he probably feels betrayed, and that's not a great way to start a journey to
Yeah.
betterment.
He's probably like, when is somebody gonna tell me like the whole truth in one sitting instead of like giving me
Yeah.
pieces of it?
Because Leia even says in there that she's not doing that. She's not telling
Oh.
him things.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, okay, here's another question. So do you think that eventually now this is like a super far-fetched question, but do you think that eventually if Luke found out that she wasn't telling him everything, do you think there's a chance that he would turn on her?
I don't know. Yes, but I think she'll win because she's too clever.
Mm.
But he's kind of if he stays to canon, Luke, he's just too. I don't know. I think he's too soft and she's too manipulative. I don't.
Man. Yeah. Harsh but true.
I don't want to meet Sith Leia. She sounds scary.
Yeah, she does sound scary. Well, when you push someone too far,
I like
don't do
blowing up
that.
your entire planet. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
On that note, you briefly mentioned crossovers earlier, and next month we are reading a crossover
Get
because
ready for another complete 180.
yes, this is going to be a crossover between Star Wars and Lilo and Stitch of all things.
I would have never guessed.
Right?
That would have never even crossed my mind.
I was just flipping through pages and pages of archive of our own just to like see what I found. And I saw that one. I was like, what? So the description is about how Anakin and Obi-Wan and I think Ahsoka and then Cody and stuff are all out doing stuff. And then something about they thought they were going to be getting like running into a Geonosian spy, but instead there's a six-armed giant mouthed alien in a Hawaiian shirt that just bites the head of one of them and noms on their helmet. So
Oh my god. Good
I'm
old
so excited
Stitch.
to read this. And it seems to like be humorous. It's not overly long. It's like 8,000 words. So it's like I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours worth reading, but it should be
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Okay, that sounds fun. Another one that is something totally different that we have not done before.
No, I made it my goal to try to find something different.
Well, as a reminder, we are also on Instagram, which is one hell of a fanfic with a period in between every word. So if y'all want to follow along with us every month on Instagram, we post what we're reading, like reminders of what we're reading, and when we drop episodes. That's just pretty much where we put all of our updates. And we also post our recordings on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch while you're listening, our YouTube is just called One Hell of a Fanfic.
You just got through that so beautifully. There's nothing for me to add.
I'm getting used to it, I guess.
Well, we're 13 months
14.
in? 14? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 14 times. It's starting to sink in. Well, we will see y'all next month, and thanks for joining us. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for joining us at One Hell of a Fanfic. On this podcast, we discuss Star Wars fan fiction, but we do not own the rights to Star Wars or any of the written works we cover. We have no affiliation with Lucasfilm or the fanfic authors we credit for their work. For questions, please email us at onehellofafanfic@gmail.com.